In time, time will become what we call the noose around the neck of every life. Does not matter on this planet, physicality of the man, a star, the life of a universe, and somewhere down the line to the existence of the Creator. Everything has time. And it comes by essence of its own interaction. It dictated and it dictates by its own dynamic structure. Man dies, physically leaves the body of the man. But what happened to that energy which created the life of the man? Part is the central energy, what we call the soul, and part is the structure of the energy of the physicality and soul of physicality which holds it together. In a way, the soul of physicality and the physicality is a dimension and direction of the place and manifestation of position, and the strength of it dictates what we possesses, dictates how physically that entity manifests itself in the place. The balancer between the energy of the physicality and the soul of physicality, which is a central controller of physical dimension, is the soul of the man, the central energy. In a way, the body of the man we see, all his activities, that is all controlled on the correction and direction of the circulation of the blood and the nervous system, connects itself to its balancer, which is the central energy which connects man to the universe. Soul of physicality is connection to the physicality of the space-time of the place. The soul is the connection between the same but the universe, to the universal lights. Physicality cannot jump across the borders, cannot even jump across a wall, cannot even jump across a river. But the soul of the man travels the span of the universe, has his own timeline, is not connected to the day and night of physicality of the man, which is connected to the dimension of the what we call the solar system, which dictates his existence. But one question comes to ask: what is common between the two? When do we die? Put in the accidental death, which brings a new dimension into the dimension of physicality. Why do we go through the cycle of death? Why do we go through the cycle of half-life? We call death in the physical dimension, but we have found the same, what we call scientific term for it as a half-life. If you look as a what I call a nuclear physicist, this is what puzzled me for years, for decades, that how we never understood. We die. Physically we die. We leave the body behind. And then we start a new life. Combination, dimension of many lives. We become the body of the worm, we become the body of the birds, we become body of the planet. But a new dimension of the other side is the energy inside, which is the soul of the man. What's the difference between the death and a half-life in atomic nuclear structure? An atom dies. What happened to it? Does it disappear? No. In the matter-physical state, as a nuclear physicist, we say it splits to two different atoms. We call it fission. Isn't death the fission? We measure the time of it. This atom, this isotope has such a lifetime, so many seconds, so many minutes, so many decades, so many centuries. Isn't that the point? The same with the life of the man, the time of the man. The death point is the half-life of the man. Isn't this the truth which we have denied ourselves? If we can measure the half-life of an atom, an isotope, why can't we measure the half-life of the man, the soul of the man, the physicality of the man? Or because of the lack of knowledge, we never understood. Now we understand. We call it death. As a nuclear physicist, I call it the half-life. The point is not the time, the half-life. The point is, what does it become to? How we, as physicists, accept that we get two new atoms, but we can't accept that our life becomes two new lives. Different characteristics, different position, different space. One flies into the space to become a new structure, and one stays where it is and become the residual and feeder of the other lives. As I said, man has chosen too many terms for the same effect, for the same process. If man understands, as a nuclear physicist, I understand the half-life is limited. I understand is the interaction of the fields of its environment that creates that half-life. I can dictate it. I bring this atom, I inject it into your body, you go in the machine, and I know it has 10-second life. I have 10 seconds to watch it, and then it becomes something else. Then, if man understand the energy of the soul, if man understand the energy of the soul of physicality, we can dictate when is the half-life of that time. Separation, split. We've chosen two different words for the same process. Death, half-life. Death of an atom, creation of two new, plus some residual irradiation. Then you understand there is a purpose to this life. Time of death is decided long, long before, at the point of inception. When an atom splits into two atoms, again, that split 2-second parts, each start another new half-life, depends what they carried with them. In the future, if man understands this, can measure this, understands what emits out of his physical body, you call it aura, and can measure it, can dictate the time, the place that that body will go through its half-life. Why do we live longer? Or why do we live shorter? If you look at the accidental death, isn't this what we do in nuclear reactors, in the nuclear fuel, that we target a position and we fire at it and we create that accident that lead to division? That from that division, what is the residual? We call it the heat, that we boil the waters and become energy that we burn. But the process is, we created the accident, we split the atom, we create a half-life, and we see the new atoms has a new half-life. Now you understand, this is what I understood when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. There is no difference between radiating, hitting a plate and creating X-ray, and creating a nuclear fusion by, or nuclear fission by combination or division of the fields. We decide the half-life because we end one atom and we start a new, and what comes out of it, some be dislocated, sometimes because of the high energy we split it. Natural process is a natural half-life decay, and the life of the man killed in an accident or died due to some other effects is that man beaming, directing fields to create splits inside an atom. There is no difference. It's just man for level of what I call morality has created different terms for it. Then you understand how in the coming time, if we control the soul of physicality and we control the energy fields of the soul, we control, understand what the physicality gives out, as we call the aura of the man, we can time it when the half-life of the man is. And as we predicted that this atom in the splitting becomes this and start new behavior, and this another behavior, the other half, then that half is the soul. We know its energy, we know where the place and position of it is, and what will be the behavior of it. Is it going to become a star? Is it going to become a creator of the universe? Does it become a dust? And the other half, which is splits, we know is the dimension of physicality. Worms eat it, the earth consumes it, a new cycle starts. Because each one of those have their own half-lives. This is what I brought out last week. What is the time of the life of the soul of the man? Now you understand how beautiful the creation is. Man has never understood. It's the same process. By lack of knowledge, he has not managed to put it together. Now, as I said in the past teachings recently, we show you different dimensions of the same thing, that gradually you can connect it together and understand the totality. It's like we spent 2 years, 3 years teaching about the soul. We were accused of he's trying to control the soul, his soul catcher and the rest of it. And it showed that ignorance of not understanding the power of the knowledge. Now you have to put that, all that soul, all that physicality you're so proud of, what is his half-life? Then you understand the teaching of last week. If you understood the process of half-life, that the division creates, because we know how much energy is released, it becomes gold and stays for 100,000 years. And it's one of the special type of isotopes of gold. It stays for 10 million years. Now, can you measure the field strength of the soul of the man and determine which isotope it is and how long it stays? And then when he comes to the end of that time, we have become so knowledgeable that we know it splits again. But man does not understand that in that process of split, if you create a new dimension of the field, it will not become gold. It does not need to go lower, but it can go higher. It becomes plutonium, become whatever it likes. Then you understand how life of the man is a collection of half-lives, but the man never understood. Ask yourself one question. Do I call it the point of death? Or do I call it the half-life? And then, what is my destiny at that half-life? I leave the physicality behind. Part of the soul of physicality, because the amalgamation of the field, the strength of it, is embedded in the soul of the man. What is his half-life? This is what I said many times. Maybe today you understand for the first time. You can do things to change the strength of the soul, dictates its half-life, and then from then even decide after that half-life where you want to be. 1 million years life of the man measured by it is the splits of the microseconds of the life of the universe. Noticed till very recently when I explained that 4.5 million is not the life of one. They tell us 4.5 billion years up to this planet is much more. We saw information coming up within weeks and months after. Oh, life could be 13.5 billion on this planet. We made a mistake, the life of the universe, because we released the knowledge, we touched the soul of the man and we enlightened, and it moves. How many times you've seen changes as the teaching goes on? Now we are reaching a point that the destiny of the man is in the hand of the man. The conduct of the man decides where the man shall be at the point of separation, at the point of death, at the point of what we call half time. Then you understand the totality. Then you understand the reality of the technology, the knowledge which is shared. We are not here to punish you and tell you about the hell and heaven. This is a scientific teaching, understanding the science of creation. And then it's you, as you added the salt and you got the caustic and you made plasma of the energy, creating new dimension. You can add to it and you change the matter to energy. Now you have to learn how to add to the energy of the soul of you by yourself through your conduct to decide the position of the half-life part which released in the universe. You call it the soul of the man. Now you understand why I keep on telling you the earth is the nursery growing the seed. Because once the seed is done, a flower drops its seeds below itself for it to grow. It gives it to the bird to take it across to another part of the garden and the city to spread it. Where does the seed of your flower, your life, will go with the birds of the universe? What is the phoenix of your life? It's not to bury it in the ground. It's taken across the universe. Where does it land, that phoenix? And does it match into what you did? Otherwise, you'll stay in that place endowment till the time comes when the ground is ready, when it becomes fertile by the fields of the universe, that it might show itself. This is what man needs to understand. This is the purpose of this teaching. We're getting closer and closer for you to understand why we came as messengers, as teachers, to bring man to this point, for him to understand that he is responsible for the position where that half-life starts will be, as he knows one half is already committed to be left behind, that in the future, as part of the body of the man, will become in time another half-life and feeds into another soul, that soul will find its way to another dimension and creation. Ask yourself one question. I answered this years ago. We have a cow. It eats the grass. How does the grass convert into meat? Isn't the reason why there is always a protein in every grass, every vegetable? The reason for it is simple. That protein, which fits to my protein, I can transfer its energy from it into mine. I'm just a converter, I'm the cow. This is why animals eat certain grass, certain plants, certain food. Because that's the only amino acid in that plant which matches into the amino acid structure of their life. They come with the converters of one amino acid to another. Vegetable amino acid to meat. Now you tell me you're a vegetarian? You are a converter. You become the cow. Otherwise, you're still living another life. You're eating another life. How and what a hypocrisy with those who are vegetarian. You just become another cow. Instead of cow converting the protein of the wheat, seed, apple, and then you eat it, now you do the converting and make it the flesh and blood of yourself. And who eats you? What is your half-life? What is the purpose of all these wars? And what is the purpose of all this killing? We are all just another cow converter of protein. Now you understand the purpose of life. Creation of that half-life. We do everything to extend it. But we don't understand. We don't need to extend it. We have to increase the value of it, the beauty of it, that by itself finds a half-lifetime itself, that does not matter where it is. It serves its environment and decides when to decide to become the other half-life. Maybe today's teaching brings you to understand the reality about your life, your creation, and how feeble man has been. Always said in a very, very rude way, very, very rude. And that comes to one point. You study, you become engineer, you're electrical engineer, you are mechanical engineer, you're specialized in thermodynamic, blah, 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 blah. You're just an engineer. Nobody cares. It's just another thing, piece of paper. You can't influence my life. I become a nuclear engineer and the world fears me. Same classroom, the same chair. Understanding the truth about the creation and how I can play with it, which brings fear to your spine. I understood the half-life, but now I can understand the connection between the half-life and the half-life of man, a plant, an atom, an universe, a galaxy, and the rest of it. There is no difference. Man has just chosen the wrong name, different name for the same process. Supernova, death of a man, split of an atom, is all the same. Time, half time, death, creation and a new cycle. Then ask yourself one question. How do I elevate my soul or take from my soul that I become the soul of a bird? That I become the soul of the galaxy and I become the soul of the universe, and in part I become the soul of the Creator. I made man in the image of myself, which means my soul is the soul of the man and man's soul is my soul, as we are all the same, created from the same source. This is not a physicality. One day the cow, one day the bird, one day the man, one day another species in another part of the universe. Then decide what half-life of the time you want for the seed which flows with the birds of the universal fields across the universe, and what phoenix will come from that bird. Now you understand the day of judgment. It's you who has to judge, and not anyone else. There are no courtrooms. There are no voice day, and there are no hell and heavens. Man decide when you can't achieve in the dimension of the soul in what you want your soul to be, that's hell for you. When you reach that point, that you reach the point of satisfaction or understanding, I'm happy where I am, but I'm happy where I go. When my half time comes, the game in the other half played with my satisfaction and my emotion, and I carry the emotion of the universe, not tainted with blood. Blood is not red. Blood taking the fields of the others, which is not yours. Blood of life. How do I control it? How do I change it? How do I learn to interact with it? You call it emotion. That's the only way you transfer energy from the soul of the man to the soul of physicality of the man, and to the physicality of the man, and to the soul of the creator. As we say in Arabic, that's the end. This is the beauty of the creator. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you understand this, you have understood the secret of creation. And you understand you have all the time. It's you who decides the threshold of ignorance. Otherwise, it all comes from his love and creation. As much as man has controlled his destiny, where to live, what to eat, what education to receive, man has control over the destiny of his soul. The time, the place, and the possession. The emotion, the intellect, and the enlightenment. The yin and yang. Man has to decide the yin yang side or the yang side, the energy side or the matter side. As I said, teachings the past few days is to open your eyes in different dimensions. It's not to make systems, it's to make you aware of your time. Without time, you don't exist. And with non-existence, you cannot do anything. But when you exist, you have to understand when that clock time comes. It's not per seconds of this planet. It's per understanding the emotion of the universe. That's where it gives you time. That's where your time starts. Then your emotion fits into the emotion of the universe, in the dimension of the soul of the man, free will strength. Then your time starts. You see the plant in one soul, and it never grows. You see this seed in another position, and it grows. You have to decide where does the seed of your soul grows, and what does it become. That's your time. Do you want to spend it in the prison of the physicality, or do you want to teach the physicality the beauty of the creation? You transfer or you transmute. Decision is yours. To what extent you push this barrier is decision of yours. You decide your half-life. The atmosphere of this planet has created a cage of time to be here as a soul, you have to pay, you have to share. And the payment comes at the point of death. I've collected, I leave, and I take my new dimension. I become the phoenix of my physicality in another dimension in the universe. I hope you understood today's teaching. It's very heavy. And if you haven't understood, it goes over your head. One day your children or your great-grandchildren will understand, and they'll change the course of their lives. Then they decide for the phoenix of their soul. We go for a break and we come back. And I hope I have enlightened you, which means you understood the emotion and you had the intelligence to understand. Take us for a break.